Yo, what is going down? We are here tonight. It is the Fantasy Football Show. And tonight we have our day ones. And so I would just start it off by saying, yes, day ones. Hey, man, these fantasy drafts, they're like street corners, man. You know, you got to claim your turf. And tonight we planting flags on the players who's getting ready to run the block for everybody here in 2025, man. So everybody say what's up to the one and the only living legend, Mr. Nick Wilcox. What up, brother?
What up, my guy? What up? In here for another show out here. Oh my gosh, bro. The expo's right around the corner. Like, oh my gosh. Can you smell it? Can you taste it? Can you feel it? I do. So
yeah.
So yeah, like you know what I'm saying? So we out here, you know, getting ready to give you guys our day ones, you know what I'm saying? And it's gonna be an interesting show, so I'll tell you. We got John's got his guys, I got mine, and we about to run the streets.
That's it, man. That's it, man. That's it.
I love
it. Yeah, but before we get started, man, would you I know we were kind of texting a little bit about like SummerSlam and stuff. What
Oh no, man. I didn't get that far. I didn't get that far.
You didn't get to
I know what happened, you know what I'm saying, but I didn't get that far. I knew it was gonna happen though. Again, WWE's been so obvious lately. Like, we knew that was gonna happen, right? So I'm not completely shocked that Brock is back.
I'm not going to say that I knew that it was going to happen. I would say like it was in the deck of cards. I think like that it was in the deck of cards. I think, you know, these things being in the deck of cards and then like things like actually happening, like the Rollins deal, like again, in the deck of cards, like you could see that could possibly be where that goes for sure. I think there was a couple of other ways it could have went. I think Cena going back babyface, like that kind of changed the whole dynamic of a lot of different things. And then obviously like when Triple H was like, you know, the first night was nothing. That kind of was like the hint right there that like you should expect to see somebody that you wouldn't normally see. And with that, it was the beast incarnate, which makes me wonder now too, like what, like, you know, like, is there going to be any like weaving in the storylines with Heyman or, you know, Lesnar? I think it opens it up for a lot of different things, man. I think they set themselves up for, you know, for a good next 6 months, 8 months to Mania anyway. But yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, hopefully that's where we're at with it. But it's also like, man, like Seth Rollins cashing in, like, you know, just, you know.
Yeah.
Oh well,
yeah,
we knew that. I knew that was coming.
Yeah,
well. Like, you know what I'm saying. Not gonna tell people I told you so on everything. I'm just saying in general, like it was just so obvious. Like,
like I said, like it was in the deck of cards, man. Like that whole thing was in the deck of cards. It was in the deck of cards the moment that happened. People was like, it's a work. Like, hey, like whenever he cashes it in, it's gonna be the best, you know, cash in, whatever. So yeah, I mean, like I'll say 50-50 on it, man. You know, I think like, you know, the shock factor wasn't there because like there was a part of us that expected it. But still though, just to have it be a work the way that it was, man, I was like, all right, okay. Like and plus I told you anyway, man, like I'm like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, like the Shield, man. Like when I got back into watching wrestling, because like I kind of stopped like in the 2010s ish, you know, 2006, 2010 ish. I kind of stopped after The Rock went to Hollywood. Kind of stopped watching, and then to get back and see like, you know, Reigns and Rollins and Ambrose, like those are my guys, man. So I rock with them guys like no matter what, man. But anyways, man, our day ones here. We got that. Got any news you want to hit, man, before we get rolling or what?
Yeah, I think some things that are definitely noteworthy in terms of over the last couple of days for training camp, like. First things business is AJ Brown dealing with a hamstring pull. You know, I think that's just where I think just gonna take it day by day, take it slow. Honestly, AJ Brown's really not needed until week 1. So if you told me he wasn't gonna practice or whatever, or you know, just do sideline stuff for the rest of the time, just to make sure his cardio is good, I'd be just fine with that. We all know AJ Brown's still gonna go within the first like 15 picks of your drafts. And I just think that just something noteworthy. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy, but from camp sightings or reports, he's just not participating. But again, like there's no change in terms of where he goes right now at this moment in time. Again, things could change. Keelan Allen, had a visiting with the Chargers, so potentially those two. The Chargers and Allen could have a nice little reunion. When it comes to that, and then that would put Keelan Allen as, he'd probably be a wide receiver 4 currently. Yeah. Obviously someone that's getting drafted very, very late, sometimes undrafted, especially for our home leagues that they're coming up. But something to keep in mind, if he does go back to the Chargers, it'd be interesting, but I wouldn't see it as Keelan Allen being anything more than a potential flex play every other week, depending on matchups and how deep your league is and settings-wise, stuff like that. Your guy, Dameon Pierce, passed this physical today and was activated from the physically unable to perform list. So that's something to keep monitoring on, because there's talk also in camp news about Nick Chubb not being able to get to the second level, to third level anymore. Basically, his burst is kind of nowhere to be seen, according to people at camp. So that's interesting to watch for. But again, like with the Texans' whole situation, I'm throwing a few shares at Woody Marks as well in best ball just to see what happens. But just all something to keep in mind, especially if people get into drafts where they're getting wrecked at running back.
Woody Marks, he's somebody I like. I think I got him in like around 15. I think Scott Fishbowl. Like I threw a dart out there like on him, just because, like you said, like who knows, man, that backfield is a mess. And yes, Dameon Pierce, Scott Fishbowl, 13 destroyer, for sure. He was a part of that team that created the reckoning of mine, for sure. So no, like that's already turning into organized chaos there in Houston in that backfield with Chubb, Marks, Pierce. God only knows what other names we'll hear there over the next couple of weeks. And AJ Brown, man, the hamstring, like that's isn't that what he had last year that kept him out for a few games?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I said something noteworthy about for real.
Yeah.
But Addison, we got some news on that. Plead no contest to the DUI citation. So the team, according to Dan Grazio of the ESPN, is expecting a 3-game suspension for Addison upcoming for the season. So
Jalen
Naylor. Yes. Your boy, Jalen
Give
Naylor.
it to me for a couple weeks.
Your free agency darling.
Give it to me for a couple weeks, baby. Give it to me for a couple weeks. I'll take it. Take it.
So, according also to Dan Grazio, Mason and pretty much Aaron Jones are going to basically be co-RB1s for the season, at least starting out. So that is the plan overall, at least what they can envision. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. I do, I'm saying in terms of like Jordan Mason, like he's someone that, was really decent filling in for McCaffrey. So time will only tell how good, Mason can get, because he's going the tier after, like, he's going in a range of like the Jaden, the start of the tiers, like him, and then like the Jaden Blues of the world, like the Cam Scatterbills, the Tyron Traces of the world. They're all kind of in that gap of tier.
Round 10. He's round 10. I think 10-1 or 10-4 was kind of where he had been at. Like he was, I'll let one cat out of the bag. He was one of the guys I was gonna put on my day one guys, but like I talked about, like kind of the process I used kind of eliminated him from that. But like round 10, like for him, I think like that's definitely that's pretty good value, I think, for him if he's going in that space. But like, like you said, like, Scatterboo, Tracy, Blue, there's, I don't even know who else. There's a couple other guys, obviously, like in that same space. Who else we got? We got Mondre, J.K. Dobbins, Sharbs, Taji Spears. I think he's like, I mean, if you think about it, like right where he's going, like he's going behind other notable backups that, are really flex plays, Sharbs, right. Tajay Spears, your boy Tank Bigsby, Jaden Blue, like he's going ahead of those guys right now. So
he should.
Yeah, that's a pretty, pretty intriguing, round 10 through 12.
I still think you're going to get a really good discount on him in your home leagues upcoming. Just because Jordan Mason is not going to be still, I feel like people are, although they saw him last year filling in for McCaffrey, I still think that he's a name that like people are still going to be like kind of queasy on when it comes to clicking the button in terms of, especially depending on how someone's draft strategy went.
Yeah, see, like, I think it's a little bit I'm thinking different this year. Like, I'm thinking that like a lot of people now are like,
they're hip to him.
Well, not even just hip to him, but like it's August, right? Like, like a lot of people have been like grinding these best ball streets, since May, and like have a pretty good beat on a lot of these players. And now there are certain players' names that are starting to like recycle more and more and more
up to the surface.
Yeah, they're starting to recycle, and
cream
I think
of the
like,
crop.
I think he's one of those names that like, I think he's one of those names that people are now getting a lot more familiar with. They know what's going on. And they're like, okay, like people are talking about him as a sleeper. And as him being a sleeper, like you're going to get some situations where he's going to get bumped up draft boards. I feel like anyway. And I think like, like I know there just becomes a certain point that like, while we like him as a player, if he's going 2 rounds ahead of his ADP, again, given, whatever people's draft construction is, or just whether they don't know, or, had a couple, one too many Steve Weisers, is what it is, man. So yeah, that's I don't know. That's my take. But I'm not shocked to hear that news about him and Aaron Jones being 1A and 1B, because I think that's the way you got to look at it with old man Aaron and young legs Jordan.
Last but not least, Tyjae Spear news. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reporting that Tyjae Spear has positioned himself as getting an uptick more as camp has been rolling around. Obviously we just talked about that tier. So Spears going in that tier makes a ton of sense from a draft perspective, because I could easily see Tyjae Spears getting a decent role in this Tennessee offense. Look, like there comes a point where I think that Spears could be a guy that, along with Pollard, you pair them together, it's a nice running back. So for your home league. So
everybody this time of year is 50-50, timeshare, and looking good, and all the optimistic things, man, all the optimistic things.
But, I know, right?
But Tyjae Spear, everybody, man, everybody. So
everybody, their mama, he's good. He's flashing great. This.
Yeah,
he
looks good. He looks good. We got high hopes for him. Like we'd like to see him in the rotation here. Like he'll get some carries. Man, yeah. Wow, welcome to August is all I got to say.
Welcome to August, where everybody's undefeated and everyone's just singing everybody's praises.
Love it. I love it.
So that's the news.
All right, dig that. All right, man. Well, we'll get started here with our day ones. Tonight we're just gonna be going over, man, players that for us we feel like we can't leave drafts without. Nick took a different approach. I took a different approach. So I'll kind of walk you through my approach that I had. My approach was I took players that were drafted after the 3rd round. And reason being is, obviously there's a few players in the first round or two that like, A, you're just not going to have the chance to get depending on where you're drafting at, or B, it's pretty obvious that like, hey, like these are players that, we'd want to draft. So for me, I'm starting with Caleb Williams at quarterback. Like we're just going right through there. That's what it is. And some of these names might be recycled. You might have already heard some of these things already. But man, Caleb Williams last season had the 5th most passing yards for Chicago Bears quarterback in franchise history with over 3,500 yards last season. He was QB, I think it was QB 15, I believe, last year. QB 14, QB 15 last season as far as average points. And he's going at 9.7 right now. So, again, he's somebody that's falling out of the top 3 range as far as quarterbacks. And then if you're constructing your roster, if you have 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex, and even an additional flex, right? Like that puts you in a position to be able to grab a guy like Caleb Williams. And I think last year at the end of the year, he showed some flashes of things. And again, like he set a Bears record last year with passing yards. And then he had a stretch as well where he had 326 consecutive pass attempts without an interception. So like, again, like it was there for him. And one thing I think like you're going to see Ben Johnson lean into a little bit more with Caleb last year was he actually had a 77% completion percentage on passes that were under 2.5 seconds. So just getting the ball out, I think like that's a thing that I think you'll see a lot from the Chicago offense this year. At least it would make sense to, given as the fact that obviously I think we all know about his struggles with sacks last year. And then from week 11 through week 14, he did a pretty good job, man. He had a QB, a passer rating of 118 during that window of time versus the weeks 1 through 10 where he had a 79 passer rating. So he had a 3-week span there where he was able to kind of put some things together. And then I think from the rushing side of things as well, he was 7th in the league as far as quarterbacks winning rushing at 479 yards rushing. So you still get a little bit of upside with him there, like in that space. And again, like he was one of those players, I think for me last year, for a lot of people, he was overdrafted. Obviously, you got Ben Johnson coming in there, getting ready to shape that thing all the way together up. And I think there's a lot of other pieces on that Chicago offense that fantasy managers are really intrigued by. DJ Moore is a guy I've said, like, you know, numerous times, like, I love him. I love the situation he's in. Rome Odunze's in the situation to be able to break out. DeAndre Swift. So a lot of those Bears pieces are there. So if you're liking a lot of those Bears pieces, you ultimately have to like Caleb Williams in some respect. So for me, Caleb Williams is the guy that I'm going to go with at 9-7 at quarterback. And that's my guy, one of my guys anyway this year. And I'm gonna ride till the casket drops this season on him, man, for real. So what you got at quarterback, man?
Yeah, I like Caleb for sure. Not as much as I like the next guy we're going to talk about, though. But yeah, Caleb with Ben Johnson, I think this team in general, like, I think we're going to expect decent things from the Bears this season, and hopefully not the mediocrity over the last, like, 10, 20 years they've had. The guy I'm going to talk about quarterback is Bo Nix. Bo Nix, for me, was a guy that – another one of those players last year where you didn't necessarily know how Denver was going to come out. You know, a lot of people, including Vegas, had this team at their over-under last year was like 4.5. So there wasn't a lot of expectation out of this team in general. Sean Payton coming in, who knows, people were talking about he was going to be washed and this. Him driving all the receivers and all the usages and stuff like that. This whole offense was really tricky to nail throughout the whole season. But for Bo Nix, like, he was a guy that, you know, you were able to, at times, probably just take him off the waivers. And he was able to be slotted into a position where later in the year, if you held on to him, you were benefiting for sure. So Bo Nix, he finished the year with 3,775 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 92 carries, 430 rush yards, and 4 scores on the ground. He was the second most. He had the second most touchdowns through the year by a rookie ever for rookie QB, which is crazy. 18.6 points per game coming from Nix. Now, what's going to give Nix, you know, he's going like 74th overall consensus when it comes to our home leagues at the moment. What's going to take Nix from going where he's going to overall where we potentially really want him to be? Because, again, he was QB7 last year. Among quarterbacks. So can he get from QB7, where he's pretty much going 74th overall, to can he get him to a QB4? Can he get him to a QB5 finish? Like, you know, so I definitely see a range of outcomes just because Bo Nix does rush the football as well. People talk about Burrow constantly. I like Burrow too. I just think that he still goes in a range where we got QBs that are going to run the football, and I can get, you know, 3 or 4 rounds later versus where Burrow's going. I do think that somebody can still sneak up in there and catch him because of the way they can run with football as quarterbacks. That's what we want in fantasy football in general, and that's where the league's going towards anyway. So But again, also additional notes for Knicks. This offensive line is great. Led the league in pass and run, blocking win rate in general. You love the receiver core. Colin Sutherland just got the bag. You got, Marvin Mims, who's a dynamic receiver that stretches the field. They drafted Pat Bryant, who people definitely are, in sprinkles, people are liking. They got Evan Ingram, who people have liked over the years. Sean Payton talking about he's going to be playing the Joker role, which has been, a role in which, the guy is going to be motioning constantly around the formations and, getting the ball in their hands as well. So a lot of wrinkles you love in terms of, Denver in general, and then Bo Nix and him taking a step forward. The only downside was that he really was a check down monster. He was fourth highest in check down rate, but honestly, that's a good thing because as for the first 8 games or so, whatever, he was pretty much that anyway, because we needed to know what he could do. They were playing to his strengths. And then I believe, again, what really turned me around game tape wise from Knicks was the Atlanta game where they smoked them. Like if you watch the tape, you watch that game, they smoked Atlanta. And that was Bo Nix's coming out party. He had over 300 yards passing. I believe he had at least like 50-something yards on the ground as well. Again, that was his breakout party. So, again, Bo Nix, who's going again outside of the 7th round for me, if you miss on the elite guys, like, for instance, like my elite guy would be Jaden Daniels. But, again, if you're not getting an elite QB, I'd love to get Nix, you know what I'm saying, at the middle of that 7th round, early 8th round sometimes he falls to. You could go with Caleb Williams, you know what I'm saying, as well. You could go with Drake May. There's a lot of QBs you can still grab if you miss out on elite. But Bo Nix is definitely a guy I want to plant a flag on.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind Bo Nix, didn't hate Bo Nix at all. He's one of my dynasty QBs, got him at the value. I just the way you were saying, I think like that's the thing, like with Nix is, does he get to that space? Because he's definitely, if he doesn't, not if he doesn't, but to get him into that QB4, QB5 spot, like that's where it would have to like end up paying off like the value for him. In that space, like with where he's going now, like that's the reason why I like Caleb there is because that's a couple of rounds later, and like you mentioned, like the rushing yardage or whatever was very similar. I think obviously Sean Payton, like we know what Sean Payton does offensively with things, and the other thing too, and I think you probably make the same argument for the Bears too. It's just defensively, the Broncos are going to be really good. So, like, it'll be interesting to see how the game script goes, like, in terms of, like, the back and forth and things like that versus with Burrow, which we already kind of know, like, with Cincinnati. They're more likely than not, they're going to be in a lot of shootouts for sure. And like I said, same thing with or a very similar situation, at least I feel like, with Caleb Williams and the Bears. Yeah. All right, man. So, my next guy is actually somebody who hasn't made my list before, but is now officially on my list and kind of started paying him some attention a few weeks ago after getting some reports about injuries. My guy Najee and his 4th of July escapades, got some information today that he's out here on the Johnny Main fitness track out here walking laps. Just like me, you know what I mean? So like he's out here on the fitness track with me out here walking, man. I just I think with Omarion Hampton, man, I think that's my guy. I think seeing him in college, like I really loved his game in college for sure. Low key North Carolina over the last couple of years had, 2 really good running backs, obviously, in Javonte and Omarion. But like my whole thing, like going into this process and going into like best ball and stuff was like, all right, like this is a pretty steep price to pay for a player who is really going to be, we know that they're going to be in the timeshare. Like we knew like Najee was going to be the guy that was going to start off. Like they didn't sign him for no reason, but they also didn't draft Omarion Hampton for no reason. But I think now, like when you look at it and you see that Najee is, it's the process is a little bit slower as far as him getting on the field. This could be one of those situations where, Omarion Hampton gets on the field and he just doesn't give it back. And it could end up being a 70-30 situation, right? Because as much as I love Najee, from his time in Pittsburgh, the best thing about him was his availability, and him starting off the year being unavailable in a situation like this with an explosive runner and a dynamic talent like Omarion Hampton. That draws a little bit of concern. The one thing I will say about the Chargers were a very inefficient running game last year. They had a very inefficient running game. And for as much as Greg Roman and Harbaugh wanted to run the ball last year, it wasn't quite up to the standard that they want. So obviously they made some adjustments as far as like the running game goes. Their backfield last year was, stepped on at best, like with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And, we had some hope for Kamani Vidal. That ended up like not popping at all. But last year, the Chargers were 12th in the league in rushing attempts last year with 463. And 17th in the league as far as yards per game in rushing. So I think, like, for me, when I think about like this situation, like I know everybody's in love with Ashton Jeanty, and rightfully so, given the circumstances and situation, right? Like Chip Kelly offense, the speed, the plays, or whatever. But Omarion Hampton, obviously, like his talent is, in my opinion, is equal to that of Ashton Jeanty. I think his situation might even be a little bit better when you look at the team. The only hang up is obviously Najee Harris potentially being there to vulture carries or to take any carries away. But if Najee's not there, then now all of a sudden, in my opinion, you got a guy who has tremendous upside in Omarion Hampton, who's going around the 4.7 range right now, who could really be, in my opinion, 4.4 right now. In my opinion, he could end up being a big time difference maker. I mean, we talked about it last week on the show as far as Hampton and like what we thought about him and like what would the process be. And it's very similar to that with Ashton Jeanty. I think for a couple of us, it's like, hey, if Jeanty's your second running back, then like you feel a lot more comfortable. That means you have to start off going running back. But with Omarion Hampton going at 4.4, you can start off with, Achane, McCaffrey, a Jacobs, a Chase Brown, and you can grab a wide receiver and Nico Collins and be able to come back around and get an Omarion Hampton and running back too, who gives you really high upside. So he's a guy for me that if you would have asked me a month ago, I probably would have said, nah, man, like I'll pass on it. But the way that things are starting to unfold for me, I'm starting to warm up a lot more to Omarion Hampton, especially at the 4.4 range. Because when you get to that 4.4 range, you're looking at players now as far as where they're being drafted. They all have some question marks in some respect, right? Like you're looking at Ken Walker. Like I think we love the talent of Ken Walker. Like we know what he could possibly be. Injuries are something that obviously is a concern for us. But, this Kubiak offense, like he could go to the moon. Chuba Hubbard, friend of the program for sure. James Conner.
Chuba Hubbard.
Yes, James Conner. Probably one of the most disrespected running backs every single year in fantasy. I remember you talking shit last year when I drafted him. But James Conner.
Who?
Yeah. Running back one, no big deal. But like these guys, like they all have their own questions and concerns and warts. And so I just think, you look at Hampton, you look at the situation, you look at the commitment to the run. I feel a lot better about this. And he's one of the guys now that I'm trying to make it a point to leave a draft with Omarion Hampton, especially if I can get him in the 4th round for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, Hampton is definitely someone that definitely profiles as someone that you take and you're very ecstatic about. He's someone that questionably can be built around as your RB1 where he goes. Because it's like that 3rd, 4th-ish round where sometimes the talents really start falling off the board in terms of like a tier perspective. So it's like Hampton in a way kind of starts that next tier. So I do like Hampton as well for sure. So you're hitting the money on that for sure, my guy. My RB1 is someone that I think can finish as the RB1 overall. I know he's someone that I've talked about before, but I'm going right back to the wheelhouse with Devon Achane.
Oh,
Miami Dolphins, yo.
Oh boy.
Why do you say that, yo? What? What is that? What is that?
No, just go ahead. I'm gonna let you.
He's still like,
I'm gonna let you cook, man. I'm gonna let you cook because I'm out here like that. What's the name? Hampton, man. That was my highest guy, man, at 4.4. So I'm just curious.
The reason why
I'm doing where this keeps going.
No. I mean, look, I understand in terms of where he's going is obviously, you have to pay the piper a bit. But here's why I feel Achan's still being disrespected in terms of where he goes, because he's still best ball. We're still getting him at the 1-2 turn. But I still think he's going after McCaffrey, where people are like, obviously McCaffrey finishes RB1, this, But my case for Achan is this. RB7 amongst consensus right now. Achan, the Triple Crown winner for RB last year, meaning that he had the most catches, 78 catches. He had the most receiving yards, 592 receiving yards, and he had 6 receiving touchdowns. So that was basically, Triple Crown, description.
For receiving
for receiving backs, yes, to put it in context, yes. Fantasy points per game. So rookie year, 17.3, where he had 7.8 yards per carry. So he did it on the ground that year. Last year, where there were some times where Tua was out the lineup, he still averaged 17.6 fantasy points per game. And 4.5 yards per carry is not the 7.8, but it's very productive still. Behind, again, this Miami offense, which was just still terrible. They're still trash. So in terms of Achan, I don't think gets in terms of how he goes. It doesn't affect him that much because he's still a great receiving back. Again, now no Jonnu Smith. Now he's in Pittsburgh.
Yes, sir.
You're neck of the woods now.
Yes, sir.
So that leaves open some overall opportunities as well. So again, I think Achan is a guy that could easily be I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say he could be the next Jamal Charles in out these streets. He could finish over 1,000
even without Tua being upright.
That's the big question, right? Because obviously, if Tua is healthy, Achan has every opportunity now to finish at RB1.
Yep.
Yes. If he's not there, which we can't always go off what ifs, we have to go. We have.
No, can't.
There's still time where I still think Achan can still be productive because again, even when Tua was missing some games last year, he still averaged 17 fantasy points per game.
Oh, so wait a minute. I got you. Without Tua, running back 31, running back 40, running back 51, running back 23, running back 31, running back.
Yeah, again, without Tua.
Yeah, without Tua.
Yeah,
so without Tua, he had, 6 games. He had one game where he was RB1, and then he had 2 games, including the one where he's RB1, where he was RB2. So, Tua is absolutely that's that, because if not, you got what do y'all got? What's Miami got? Zach Wilson. I think I'm not even being funny, but I think Zach Wilson is the backup.
Yeah, he's the backup.
He's the backup in Miami now. So I mess with Achan. I do. It's but it's scary hours when you got that with Tua.
I don't think it's scary. I'm just gonna bet on the talent.
I'm not gonna say scary. You're rolling the dice, and we talked about this last year. And year
that's what you gotta do though to win.
Yeah, no, we talked about it last year. It couldn't be it couldn't be Achan, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. Couldn't be all 3 of those guys. And come to find out, Tyreek Hill actually was the odd man out, along with Jalen Waddle. Achan and Jonnu Smith were the guys, right? So I hear you 100% with Achan, and I won't hesitate to take him for sure. Just here to stir the pot, man.
I like it. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I get it. It's something that that. In my eyes, if we're looking at the fantasy landscape, that is one of the biggest questions that will shape the whole season. Is Tua and his health, right? Because if he's there, everyone there is going to eat. If he's not, there's going to be some games where Achan is not going to look like where you're drafting him at. And caution in the win. However, these things you just have to swing for the fences. I don't want to finish just 4th, 5th in my leagues. I want to win it all. And you have to get guys like that profile and that's Achan for me, especially where you get him. Again, it's not like he's going now. Again, where he's going is still reasonable to where if he busts, it's not again the end of the world. You can still make up for that, in my opinion. But
listen, man. Listen, you got the big F-150 right there behind him, man. You got a guy like Derrick Henry. You got listen. Right, you're talking about swinging for the fences, right? You got a guy like Derrick Henry going right after him, sitting right there. You know what it's going to be. You know what it is. You know what the Ravens do. You know what.
Oh, you're talking about Derrick Henry. There, you're talking about your guy Jalen Wright. I'm about to say, I was like, wait a minute, you got that one guy behind him. Like, what?
No. You're like, no, like, but that's,
okay.
But I get what you're saying. Like, swinging for the fence, and like those two players right there are two players that very well could absolutely, either one of them could be the running back one, for the entire year, for sure. It's just obviously sitting there with Tua and knowing that situation and knowing those numbers I was just reading off without Tua. Like, now with Tua, we know what it's going to be. So I agree. I think the Dolphins are one of the more intriguing teams this year as far as production and what happens with them on the field. Tyreek's already talking reckless already. So it's going to be interesting down in South Beach. Is all I got to say.
Oh, get out of here!
Wow.
Get out!
Wow.
Get out!
Alexander Madison
right now.
Alexander Madison. I did see something where they said he was having a good, a good training camp, but Alexander Madison, yeah.
I'm not gonna
it's training camp, man. Everybody looks good in shorts.
I'm gonna say everybody. We were just talking
everybody
about
looks good in shorts.
Everybody gonna look good, and everybody's gonna look with a shirt off.
I told you, I'm shooting. I can go to LA, man, and walk around, and get my Nazi laps on. You know what I mean?
It's that X type. I mean,
you ain't wrong.
Kind of is.
You ain't wrong.
He ain't wrong about that,
You ain't wrong.
Shiny ain't wrong about that for real. But no, Devon Achane, my RB1 overall. Not overall, but hey, we can make a case for it. John, who's your RB2, my guy, right now? Because I think this is gonna turn some heads for some people.
Well, it's not even turning heads, man. Like I told
it's everybody.
Not? Like I took a different approach. I took a different approach and did not take any player that their ADP is before the first 3 rounds. So everybody that I'm talking about is after the 4th round. Because I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to, give some context to people, just overall as far as the players and
the guy we're talking about. That's my only one.
No, like I said, this was my whole thing. So my next guy is going at an ADP of 14.4 right now. yeah. And that's Dylan Sampson.
Woo! Homer.
Hey, no, it's no Homer here. We don't
listen, that's not did he not go to Tennessee?
He went to Tennessee, yeah. He went to Tennessee. Listen, I got it all lined up, man. Last year, the Detroit Lions ran the most plays in the NFL. The Cleveland Browns also ran the same number of plays last year, 1,118. Now, the Browns were in the bottom 5 in rushing last year. They ran 391 plays. Right? So
it's funny how that works, right? It's funny how that works.
You're like, what the hell? But one of the things that did stand out to me, though, too, is that they were actually second. They were second in the NFL as far as running against light boxes. And just to kind of put it in perspective, some of the other teams that were, actually the team that was number 1 was Washington. So what the concept is with them as far as Jaden Daniels and his mobility and just the nightmares that causes for teams. Ironically enough, the team that was number 3 was actually the Dallas Cowboys, actually, even after Dak was gone. So I thought that was a pretty interesting stat. So, and then, people may say Jerome Ford. Well, Jerome Ford did not have a single 100-yard rushing game last year at all. So whether this is a timeshare or whether, and when I say timeshare, 50-50, 60-40, whatever, maybe Jerome Ford is actually the passing back. Maybe he's the third down back. Because Dylan Sampson wasn't used a lot at UT for that. And one of the things Kevin Stefanski has been on record for saying is he wants to be more physical and he wants to run the ball for sure. And I think if that's what he's trying to do and that's his approach on things, the former SEC Offensive Player of the Year, Dylan Sampson, that's the guy. That's the guy. I don't know what's going on with Quinshon Judkins. I don't know. He still hasn't signed yet. It's still a mess going on out there. And I think we all know for rookies, if you're missing time, that's valuable time. That's valuable time.
Very valuable.
Very valuable. when we say that, right? And just, for those people that may or may not know, we'll just say they don't know about Dylan Sampson. 35 career rushing touchdowns, was second all time at UT. And here was an interesting stat I found about him too. Out of the 2,486 yards that he had, over 1,500 of them came after first contact. So, he's a guy that if Cleveland is trying to reestablish the run and they want to run the football and you're looking for a running back and you go, zero RB or, you go hero RB or whatever the case may be, round 14, round 13, right? Even in your home leagues, right? Even in best ball drafts and things like that, this is a guy you can take a stab on. And hey, man, if it doesn't work, as they like to say up here in the great Northeast, cut bait. You cut bait with this guy, right? He's not costing you anything in round 14, but he could also be a guy that could end up being a potential league winner for you in round 14. The Browns, as bad as I hate to say this, I think what we all know about Njoku, we all know about him, we all know about Jerry Jeudy. There could be some other players on that team that could be holding some fantasy value for you, because if they're not going to be very good defensively, the game script means they're going to be playing from behind. Obviously, a lot of junk time, a lot of junk touchdowns, a lot of junk receptions, et cetera, et cetera. So Dylan Sampson is a guy for me. Like I said, in whatever situation I'm in here, going in the drafts or whatnot, round 14, round 12, round 13, right? That's a guy I'm going to take a stab and I'm going to take a flyer on him every single time, because hell, what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly, because you're already getting in a territory where it's we're just rolling dice at this point.
Yeah, I mean, literally, round 14. Yeah, round 14. Here's some of the other guys that there's one guy that I do like ahead of him. Actually, and that's Ray Davis. I think everybody knows I'm a big Ray Davis guy. Yeah. But when you're talking about Ray Davis, you're talking about Dylan Sampson, then you start to talk about guys like Tyler Algier, Kareem Hunt, Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, another UT guy. So there's some names that kind of pop for you, but we're in around 14, 15, 16. At this point, hey man, they're all names. You already got your roster already built out, right? At this point, these are probably your 5th, 6th running backs that you're probably taking at this point. So I think again, he's proven that he can play against quality talent, obviously playing in the SEC. I'm not biased. This is just the world we live in. So I think he's a player that could pop for you and give you some value there. So that's my RB2 here in this world.
I like it because again, Dylan Sampson could still be a guy that, catches passes up, again, Browns, threw the most passing attempts as well last year, despite all the stuff that went down. So look, telling me the Browns are, outside Myles Garrett, still going to be a mess defensively. There's still going to be opportunities where, they'll be playing from behind, all these pass catching opportunities. Even if Judkins gets find himself mixed into this thing, it's Sampson can still find himself a nice role, if anything else. So that's the so-called worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
But no, I love that. I love it. DeAndre Swift's my RB2. We talked about a little bit about him last week when we were on with my guy Rip. But in terms of how I wanted to just give a bit more of a focal point why I like Swift. Similar to what you were talking about with Caleb Williams, in terms of how Chicago is, to revamp the offensive line, which is something that, was already, when you lead the league and take, sacks, that's something you should first want to do as an offense is reconstruct that offensive line. They did so. Brought in Ben Johnson, who obviously we know is a very creative, overall now head coach, coordinator, now going to be head coach. So we know the creativeness he's going to bring to Chicago. So there's that. The case for Swift, right? 2024 wasn't, it was another one of those, middle years for Swift, right? When it comes to the statistical category, 253 carries, 959 yards, and 6 touchdowns on the ground with 42 catches. So, look, the good news, he played all 17 games. So that's always a good sign. Swift has never in his career finished lower than RB24. And Chicago literally could have signed whoever they wanted in terms of this offseason. They could have traded for somebody as well. They could have outside of Kyle Monangai, who they drafted in the 7th round, they could have drafted. This is a great running back class. We talked about this, in the springtime. This is a great running back class. Like literally all these running backs that went all these different places that have opportunities. Chicago said no. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us from a football perspective and from a fantasy football perspective? Is that they believe in Swift. When Ben Johnson was with Swift, they had a short time together. Swift was pretty productive.
Yep.
But I would say, look, where Swift is going, consensus right now, I see sometimes it's varying. Like, consensus right now, according to DraftShark's ADP for consensus, is that Swift goes at the 5-2, which is still a little rich. I've seen him go 6th round at times, DeAndre Swift. So it depends on how someone really likes him. But I will say that DeAndre Swift is someone that I do think for everything that, will come together is that DeAndre Swift's still going to be a guy that you're getting, at times as an RB2. You're not pretty much, if you get him as an RB1, all right. But I think RB2 is where you should want Swift anyway. And you're at a point in the draft on the running back tiers that it just starts to get a little weird, like in that area and a little bit down. Like at times we'll have some rookie running backs that people love, like Harvey and Henderson and stuff like that. Obviously Caleb Johnson, who we love. But it goes at a point where it's like, well, Swift, if we're buying into the Chicago offense and we're buying into how this team could definitely revamp themselves, besides Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, Swift has to be a guy that we're, getting more of in terms of where he can produce for. So that's why I like Swift in terms of where he goes. I do think that, things roll right. Swift could be a top 12 back.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a world where that could be a thing. I don't hate him. I think like his ADP has definitely started to steam up over the last month and some change, for sure. Yeah,
Roshan,
yeah,
definitely Swift time. Excited to see him work. I mean, the reason why I like Swift also is that he's just one of those running backs that he doesn't have to always run in between the tackles. He's going to be a guy that's productive in the receiving game as well. So he can help Caleb Williams out, check downs. You know what I'm saying? With all these other weapons, the underneath is going to be there constantly. And Swift can take advantage of those, matchups with linebackers, safeties, stuff like that, in the Ben Johnson offense. Like, look, if Gibbs, I'm not going to exactly compare these two, but if Gibbs, how he finished the fantasy football season, if that Swift can get anywhere from Gibbs is probably averaging like 20 something, fantasy points, in that last several games of the last regular season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he might even actually been RB.
Probably a bit more.
I think he might have been RB1 during those last couple of weeks.
If we're getting any type of glimpse of that for Swift, all I'm asking for Swift to do is average 15 fantasy points per game. That's what I'm asking for. You know what I'm saying? Does he give, sometimes that range could go down a little bit to 13, to 14. Can he get 16, 17? It's possible, but I'm not going to bank on that. I think 15 is where I'm asking for from Swift. Can he do it? I think it's possible. When he was with the Eagles, he was an RB1. The only reason why he didn't go further than where he finished, I think it was like the RB 11, was because he didn't get much receiving work because Hurts was the quarterback. And Hurts doesn't check the ball down the running backs.
Well, he doesn't check the ball down, and he's taking every goal line attempt away from him, which is another thing. I think like with DeAndre Swift, like you still have to kind of bake into his ADP is that piece right there. Like I think from a yardage side of things, like in the passing game and stuff like you mentioned, like I think that's money. But like you look like back in June 8th, he was going around the 7.2, and now he's at 5.2. So he's already moved up almost 2 full rounds in the last 2 months. So like I like Swift. I think that's a solid pick, man. I don't hate him. Like I think he's one of those players. Like to your point, like depending on the construction of your roster, you got your receivers, right? You got your hero RB, or maybe you don't even have a running back, and like you get to him. Like that's okay. Like I don't hate it. He's not a player that I'm like, oh, like I wouldn't take. I think you know what you're getting. I think you know what you're getting with him. You'll get some, you'll get yardage games, you'll get some work in the passing game. But I think like to your point, like I think 12, 14 points a game from him, plus like the occasional touchdown. I think that's a pretty fair floor for D Swifty.
Not for real. I mean, definitely. There's definitely, again, we're in the range of the only problem why he's gone up in value, in ADP is because look, when it comes to season long versus the best ball format, like running backs just gonna be pushed up the board regardless. Like that's just basically kind of how it is. But I will say that like Swift, like if he goes up any more higher, if he gets like that early 4th round, I might have to check myself out.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get there. I think this is probably about the height of where you would see him to go unless there's some injury, because I don't think you'll see him move past Connor or Hubbard or Ken Walker or Kamara. I don't think you'll see him move into that space at all, or Hampton. I think this is probably about where you will end up getting him, is right around the 5th round, which you could do a lot worse, man, for sure.
I just think he'll go on average. Now, this based on league and stuff like that where you are. I think Swift goes later. I do think Swift will end up going like, if we're gonna get an actual pick number for Swift and where he actually goes, I really think he starts going like very end of that 5th. You know what I'm saying? In most leagues. Right now, I think by consensus, it's like, early 5th. But I do think he'll end up going like late 5th by the time things roll around. Because look, I do think people will get a little bit more on the rookies as in the next couple of weeks when people start drafting. I think people are going to start getting more up on the Henderson, more up on the Harvey and stuff like that. So closing value, and when we say that closing value, it's like when by the time all drafts end, I do think Swift ends up probably falling to like the middle 5th, late 5th versus the early 5th, which can make some difference.
Yeah.
But depends on the room you're in. That's all we always do this. It all depends on the league settings and the room you're in, So,
yeah.
But receiver time for the day ones.
Well,
what you got?
To quote my man, aka Pusha T. Keys open doors. Keys open doors. And this next guy, the Broadway bully, the 2nd Avenue first option, Calvin Ridley. I mean, wasn't what I'm telling a lot of people tonight is
something right.
It's not shocking. It's not. Yes. Yes.
No, I'm here too.
Yes.
He knows.
Yes. Man, Calvin Ridley, I think he's still one of the most disrespected wide receiver ones on a football team, right? And I could go on and on and on and on and on. But I think we know what he had last year as far as quarterback goes, with Mace Rudolph and Mr. Mayonnaise there, Will Levis, aka Kentucky. We know what they had there, like just literally the worst quarterback room in the league last year, right? Still found a way to get to 1,000 yards. He's going to have over 130 targets coming his way. Last season, he was in the top 12 in the NFL for percentage of deep passes attempted his way. He had 15.3 air yards per target, which was only 2nd behind Alec Pierce, which Alec Pierce that's like his one thing. That's what he does. So like, if you're really just thinking about like just purely at wide receiver, like Calvin Ridley is, one of the best, deep options in the league. Right. And Cam Ward, which I'm still dumbfounded on how Cam Ward is the number 1 pick and people aren't talking about him, like in super flex leagues and things like that, in best ball.
Yeah.
I literally love it. And making it a point to leave.
Like we're making a robbery.
Like I'm literally making it a point to leave every super flex draft with Cam Ward. Like I'm just like, I don't understand it. Like I don't understand it, which I think that's great. Like I hope people just don't talk about him like forever, like until the end of the season, and just let me have all the Cam Ward. But then you also think too, right? Like Calvin Ridley, he's gonna probably be staring down the barrel of a 25 to 26 or maybe even more target share. And then one of the other things too, like I think sometimes either you get too much in the weeds in this situation, or either you don't talk about it enough. But like he's getting the chance to play 2 of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. So that's 4 games that he's getting to play against teams like Jacksonville and Indy. And like he's upgraded at the quarterback position, and he still was able to give you, he was still an every week starter last year. So again, with Calvin Ridley right now, current ADP is going at 6.4, which that number started to move. And I think a lot of people have started to get on the Calvin Ridley. But yeah, they've started to get on the Calvin Ridley bandwagon, which is fine. But for me, the way that I value him, I don't care shit. Like I'll move him up, man. Hell, I'll take him as my number 2 wide receiver because he's one of my guys like that. Like he's one of my guys. So like, you know, if you're watching and you're playing in the league with me, hey, if you want him, you better jump, baby. You better jump because I think Calvin Ridley, and I'll say it again, and I seen this on X. I don't want to be this guy, but last year it was Courtland Sutton, and I knew it was Courtland Sutton. And this year I've been saying it, Calvin Ridley is going to be this year's Courtland Sutton. Point blank, period. He's going to be the guy that you're going to look at and you'll be like, well, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. And it's a very similar situation, right? Like he's a little bit of an older-ish receiver. Like he ain't an OG yet. He's Unk. So like, I think this is the perfect spot for Calvin Ridley. And the biggest part, like we've been talking about it a lot, and I've been hearing a lot of other, you know, people talk about like, you know, like the Ladd McConaughey's and BTJs and stuff. Like you're getting to a point now where it's about the value and what the value is going to be and what the ROI is going to be. So like if you're drafting him, you know, at 6'4", right? Like, and you can possibly get like a high-end wide receiver 2 back from this guy. That's exactly what you're signing up for. So again, no shocks to everybody that knows me, follows me, talks to me, asks me. It's Calvin Ridley, man. It's Calvin Ridley, aka Second Avenue's first option, baby.
Okay, yo.
Yeah. That's all I got. You want me to keep going? I'll keep going, man. I'll keep going.
You know, again, we can't.
No. Go ahead.
Your audio broke up. Your audio broke up.
Go for it.
No, it's all good. But nah, yeah, bro, like really someone we've talked about before and countless times before as well. Like we've been on this Ridley thing, but you've been the captain of it. So that being said, like Ridley's someone that, you know, still, you know, the receiver that, you know, had the most unrealized air yards last year. So that's where for me, that was already like a guy that I was like, look, I'm trying to get on. So that being said, love Ridley. So my receiver 1 is someone that, you know, the community is still, they're starting to get a little hip to him, but not as much as Ridley. That's Jameson Williams, baby. Detroit Lions. With Jameson Williams, for me, really started to see like what, you know, this guy could really start doing. And from a receiver standpoint, like JMO is technically, this is his 3rd year because the first year he pretty much missed the entire season except for maybe a game or 2. I think he got mixed into a few snaps or whatever, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't his full-fledged coming out. So yeah, look, the molding of Jameson Williams, I just think that this year is the year he really starts putting it all together. Dan Campbell already starting to rave about him already. We kind of, from a coach speak perspective, Dan Campbell is one of those guys I definitely, when he says something, I definitely perk my ears a bit. Saying he expects a big year for Jameson Williams. Big year. That's first thing. Second thing, and it's not the player, it's more about the situation for Detroit. 6 consecutive dome games at end of fantasy football season. What does that mean? No weather to deal with. Jared Goff loves dome games. Detroit potentially in, you know, some shootout, you know, potential games. Championship week, Minnesota. So that could be a game for not only for division, but points can be scored a ton. So that's another thing. 11.4 yards per target, Jameson. So a decrease from the year prior, but that was a good thing because look, when Jameson Williams was hitting the field, Jameson Williams was doing other things, you know, in terms of not just being the deep stretcher guy. but he was getting involved in the slot. He was getting involved in the crossing routes and slant patterns and stuff like that. And that's what we want to see from J-Mo, because that's where he can utilize his speed to get across defenses and be a big threat. So that's Jameson for me. He had only three 60-plus yard plays or more for yardage last season, which is something, obviously, big playability. Fantasy points per target last year, 2.3 yards. 2.3 fantasy points per target. So that was something to look out for. His yards per reception was 8.2. I think that was second to only, guess who? Jayden Reed. So I just like I talked about earlier, I expect more of a complete game from Jameson. He's already starting to see slot snaps in Detroit camp already. So they're moving around the formation. They're doing things with J-Mo that, even him getting these end arounds and, him getting these reversals and stuff like that from a yardage perspective, running wise, is also great as well. Yes, I know people are going to talk about the Lions' offensive line be a little weaker because Frank Ragnow retired. But it's someone that, again, I do think with the new OC Morton coming in, I do think that he has a pedigree that, is going to be more geared towards hopefully Jameson Williams getting more of that complete third-year breakout, quote-unquote third year. I do think Amon-Ra is still someone that, deserves to be drafted, just not where he goes because he's more of a safer floor play. I'll just go a few rounds later, grab the guy I think that can have a great ceiling, and that's J-Mo, and then see what happens from there. I just think that we always like these profile of receivers that not only get into so-called their third year, but overall a receiver that can really, take the next step forward. And I think that's J-Mo.
Yeah, no, I'm a J-Mo fan. I had him in a couple leagues last year. Don't mind him at all. I think he was again, where you were getting him at last year, I think it was I think
I love it, yo. No, look, I don't think honestly, I don't think we're talking about gambles here, in my opinion.
No,
I just think we want the guys that are gonna give us the most upside. So that's where it's where they're going. So
no, and I'm gonna do one better than that. I don't want to be the guy that just comes on here and is you draft these guys that are second, third round guys.
Right. Yeah.
That's easy money, man. That's easy money.
Sometimes not so much though, because some people do go in these first 3 rounds and pick him. You know what I'm saying? But it's
but
he's a safe guy. He's safe.
But if we came on here, we're all right, hey, draft AJ Brown, draft Devon Achane, draft Jalen Hurts, you know what I mean? That's just I know for me, as a consumer, I would want something a little bit more than that to fit. Cause I think these are a lot of times, these are the questions that people have are what about these guys in the later round? Because these are the players and these type of guys, this is how you win championships. If you're trying to take your league down, J-Mo, there is a range of outcomes where J-Mo could be, I appreciate it, brother. J-Mo could literally be the guy or a guy that ends up being a, wide receiver 12, 13, 14. I don't even know where he finished last year. I know I think I drafted him in a super flex, in round 9, maybe. And I think even in home leagues, maybe round 7 or 8. So again, he was a player that you got that really overcapitalized on it, over returned on his draft value. So because he over returned on his draft value and everything you had before that, your team went to the moon. And these are guys J-Mo, Calvin Ridley, those are guys that can absolutely take your team to the next level if you do end up drafting a Justin Jefferson and, a Puka Nacua or a Devontae Adams or somebody like that. And then you have these, these 4 guys at wide receiver, all of a sudden, man, shit, you were in business, man. You know what I mean? So, but J-Mo, like I was saying, J-Mo's explosive. I think you talked about him being utilized in the slot some. Also too, man, what they were able to do with him, just again, Ben Johnson, just on reverses and things like that right there, just finding creative ways to get him the ball. I think that was one of the things. And then two, even still like, with the Lions, like the one thing about them, like you're still going to have to do is like, you're still going to have to respect that run game. Like you're still going to have to respect that run game,
yeah.
like no matter what.
Yeah.
And and so like with that, like when you have to respect the team's run game, like we know it's basic math. Like all of a sudden you're bringing a guy into the box, and J-Mo is one of those guys that like, you don't want him one-on-one with anybody. Like you don't want him one-on-one with anybody. Cause if you do, I'm gonna do it one time. It's barbecue chicken. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is. It's barbecue chicken, man. So no, I dig that J-Mo call, man, because I think like he kind of gets lost in the mix of a lot of players that are like in that.
It's in that tier. It's in that tier.
Like because there's a lot of guys that are in that space that like had like games that popped off or had seasons that popped off, like J-Mo. Ridley's in that same space. Like some people feel a certain way about Jerry Jeudy. One of my other guys, George Pickens, is there. Another sexy name, Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle. Like there's a lot of like
Devontae
really
Smith,
there's a lot of buzzy names like in that group. So I can rock with that, man. I can rock with that.
All right, yeah. Not for real. For sure. Your wide receiver too makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I like again. Sorry if you have to hear it again. Sorry. He got that fire. Wide receiver 2, Jacoby Myers. No, like he's a guy just like Calvin Ridley that I just talked about, right? Improved quarterback play, improved situation, right? And he's weathered the storm, but he's been there already with like Devontae Adams and still was able to put up production. He was there last year with Brock Bowers, still able to put up production. I know somebody's going to talk about Thornton, also from the University of Tennessee as well. Like it is what it is, man. Jacoby Myers is just as consistent as the days are long. Over the last 2 years with the Raiders, averaging 79 receptions, 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns, right? For where he's going, again, he's a guy that he's going, oh my God, like he's going round 8-1. Like at 8-1 is where Jacoby Myers is currently going. And this is going to be his best quarterback that he's ever played with. I think he only played 15 games last year, so he did miss a couple of games. He had 129 targets last year in the 15 games that he's in. And then he also gives you a little bit of action from the slot. You don't see him there too often, but like he can hop out there and he can play the slot a little bit. I think earlier on in his career, kind of the joke was that he had never scored a touchdown. But now he's a very consistent wide receiver too. And I mean, he's the wide receiver 1, but technically the second target getter. And yeah, is Ashton Jeanty going to get some work in the passing game? Absolutely, for sure. I don't think it's going to be damning enough to like move Jacoby Myers down. But again, here's a guy that like at 8-1, there's guys that are going ahead of him. There's a couple guys I do like ahead of him, but there's a couple of guys that I don't like. You have, Chris Godwin still going there at 7-3. Like, we don't know what the injury looks like for him. We have Olave and the concerns about his concussions. Debo's looking like a fullback. We got Rome Odunze. Like, we've talked about the Bears pretty much in 2 separate spaces here. So obviously we got to like the Bears. Jordan Addison, who is probably going to be facing a 3-game suspension. A guy if you would have asked me before this week, I would have said Jawan Jennings probably would have been a guy that made this list for me, but he's got the calf issue again. So I think like just Jacoby Myers settles into a really good space right around this area that's safe. And again, like if you have built a lineup and built a roster where you already have like your alpha, which you should at this point by the 8th round, already have your wide receivers, right? Like, if you're getting him as your wide receiver 3, or God forbid, even your wide receiver 4, that is ideal for where he's going, because he's going to turn around and give you wide receiver. He'll give you a couple of wide receiver 2 weeks. I think last year he had like 2 or 3 games, I believe. He had 2 games where he was in the top 7 last year. So like he'll be able to give you a couple of those weeks, but mostly he's going to be hanging out in the top 20. So if you're saying you can get a wide receiver who's going to give you top 20, top 24 production in the 8th round, man, and again, he ain't sexy. It's not sexy, but again, it's a floor play and that's okay, man. Like, that's okay. Cause he's another guy that I think his name is starting to like ring more and more now, like, just amongst fantasy managers. So like Jakobi Meyers, I'm just trying not to overthink things this year. And like when I get to a certain space, I'm saying, hey man, like it don't matter about the name. It don't matter about like, yeah, you could go upside for sure. Yeah, you could take a swing at upside here at this rate, or you can just take a guy who's going to give you 80 catches, 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns, and just go ahead and move on and keep it pushing. So like that's what I'm going to do and not get bored, man. So Jakobi Meyers is my wide receiver 2 here with my day ones, man.
That's awesome stuff. That's awesome stuff. What needs to happen for Meyers to be where he's going right now, right? You know what I'm saying? Is literally like what, 8th round, like what, late 7th, early 8th round. Yeah. What is, from an offense perspective, what needs to happen for Meyers to, literally be in the conversation of being that high-end wide receiver 2, dare I say, wide receiver 1, you know what I'm saying, fringe? Like what needs to really happen for this Raiders offense to, get him that high? And the only reason why I asked that question is because Meyers is one guy that I think had been disrespected every stop he's been. Like in New England, where he was in New England, like, I'm saying, oh, he's a slot guy. He's this. And all he does is just, short intermediate catches or whatever. And he goes to the Raiders. It's like, he's doing the same thing. It's like, well, I think the only thing for Meyers is like, look, like I want to get him after, let's just say I go double RB, draft builds early on, as a good amount of season-long leagues like people do. It's like, then I grab Meyers like my 3rd receiver. What, in your mind, needs to happen for Meyers in order to, have a really, breakout season?
I don't expect him to like have like a breakout season. I think like there's a couple things, and I just continuously go back to it and kind of harp on it just because like I think it's one of those things, like I've been guilty of it before, like as a fantasy manager, right? Like again, very similar to what I think like what Miami has going on, where it's, where you have Tyreek Hill, like you have Tyreek Hill, you have, Achane, you have Waddle, you had Jonnu, right? You had all these pieces, and they were all like, Jonnu wasn't being drafted like that, but all these other guys were being like drafted like in the first 3 rounds. And like, like I said, like there's no way that like everything can go right, like for all these guys to pop like that. So somebody's got to be the guy that takes the step back. And I think in this offense, and just with everything that's going on, Jakobi Meyers is the least expensive out of all the Raiders skill players. I think Ashton Jeanty, and I think we even seen it with Bijan Robinson, right? Like he comes in like with such a profile and such a highly touted prospect, but like it's very difficult in a lot of these scenarios for these running backs who are drafted in the top 5 of the top 10 to go to these offenses who aren't very good, to then go out and give you RB5, RB6 production, like in that space. Maybe Ashton Jeanty still finishes as a RB1, but maybe he's running back 9, maybe he's running back 10, right? But if you drafted him at running back 5 or running back 6, then like that's probably going to sting a little bit. And I think the same thing with Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers, seeing him play in Georgia, like knew the guy could play for sure. I think a lot of people forgot really how good he was his senior year with Georgia. And then obviously he showed up to the scene last year and absolutely crushed. But again, his value and where you got him at was later on in drafts. So you were taking him as just like a dart throw at tight end. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, man, like you got the number 1 tight end right here, like in your hands, right? So I think for Jakobi Meyers, I think, I don't even know how to say the name. Shimi has already said, like Geno is the thing that's the difference for him. Like Geno Smith is going to be the best quarterback that he's ever played with, right? And if he's the best quarterback that he's ever played with, and he's already giving you these kind of numbers, I think like it's safe to say that like I'm not expecting a breakout from Jakobi Meyers. That's not why I'm drafting him. I'm drafting him because like he's about security, and he's a value at where he's going at. And like if he's going to give me that, then like if he's going to give me wide receiver 20 or wide receiver 2 production in the 8th round, then like that's all the breakout I need. I don't need him to do any more. I don't need him to do any less. If he gives me very similar numbers to what he just put up, hey man, like I'm cool. I think the only way something like that happens, obviously, is if Brock Bowers goes down. Then if Brock Bowers goes down, then like, yeah, then you absolutely have like a wide receiver 1 on your hand for sure.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I was curious because I like you said, he's a security blanket for some of your drafts. And something that where it's like if something were to happen, you know what I'm saying, and that, injury wise, that offense, like Myers could potentially really take off. So it's like you're getting him 8th round. It's like he could be either one of these wide receiver 2 you start every week, hands down almost. So with a chance for more. So that's why I was asking that question. Because again, when people start RB, it's like they're looking for receivers that can potentially do that for them later on. Well, I kind of cheated a little bit, kind of went off, in terms of where I'm going with this one, because I just don't want to leave a draft without him. And that's Rashee Rice. I don't want to leave a draft without him. I don't. I do not want to leave a draft without Rashee Rice. Look, I do not. Look, I'm telling you, people have overreacted to this stuff. Now, look, I could look like a donkey in a couple of weeks if Rashee Rice gets 6 to 8 games, right? I could look like a big donkey. Oh, Nick, you told me to draft this guy, this, da. He's 6 to 8 games. Look, if it's 6 to 8 games, I'm sorry, y'all. That's all I have to say. I was wrong. If it's 6 to 8 games, if it's more than that, I'm sorry. If it's 4 or less, plan ahead. Because, look, Rashee Rice is going in a range where we just talked about Ridley being disrespected. Like Rashee Rice is still going, consensus ADP by Draft Sharks, by the way. So 53rd overall. Where, again, Rashee Rice was we were talking about this like a month ago. Rashee Rice was going 2-3 turn, sometimes late 2nd round in some of these best ball drafts, which was something I was like teeter-tottering about because I was like, well, I don't know if I want Rice that early. I know what he can produce and be. My goodness, that's a high price tag to pay for best ball. I know he's healthy now. There's no limitations for the injury. That's great news. So there's been no harps about that. It's just been, when he's going to be suspended. So, yes, the suspension is going to come looming down. But as we get entered closer to the season with no news, I don't know. Get your Rice shares now is what I'm telling you. Like, because, look, Rashee Rice, from an X and O perspective, like, Rashee Rice really works that middle of the field easy. Before his injury, he was literally a 90% zone beater in terms of, versing zone coverages. So he was slicing and dicing. We all know what Rice was doing before the injury. It was only 3 games, which just feels like he played 5 or 6 before the injury.
It did.
Like,
no, I know. I went, I looked, I was like, damn. I was like, that was really it. I was like, it felt like he played like 6 or 7 games. I was like, man.
No, for real. So I always tell people, look, have a plan if you're going to draft Rice. You know what I'm saying? Grab someone, at receiver who you really love before you go grab Rice. I want to grab Rice. If I could grab him early 4th round, I'd be ecstatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that'd be where I would like to get him. I'll push for the 3rd round. It's just more about, again, have a plan. Have a plan. You know what I'm saying? Have a plan if you're going to grab Rice. I'm just telling people, don't go just be like, hey, I'm going to grab Rice. My wide receiver 1. Yeah, no. I'm telling you, have a plan if you're going to grab Rice for sure. He's just that good. You know what I'm saying? In terms of a receiver and where he can definitely not only win, but also what type of receiver he is with Mahomes. So again, like when he's healthy, the last 14 games been healthy. He's averaged 7 catches, 80 yards on almost 9 targets per game. So the 2023 season where he started to really do well, 17.2 fantasy points per game average. So look, Rice is one of those elite receivers, one of those guys that look like I'm looking for guys that I need so that way I can go and grab me a championship. Rice is one of those guys because of what he can not only be, but again, I thought people were going to be talking more about this injury that, again, all signs and all systems go for the injury. It's now just more about how many games he's going to be suspended. Now, look, I could work around that because if it's 4 games or less, which I'm predicting, I could work around that. If it's 6 to 8 games, I'm like, again, I'm sorry, but again, have a plan around this. Like, go grab an elite receiver, you know what I'm saying, that you like or love, and then go grab Rice. Because, again, you could, at receiver versus running back, correct me if I'm wrong, you can always make up this. You can always make up a little bit of a difference at receiver versus running backs at times, just because of the touches and usage and stuff like that. So, elite receivers, yeah, hard to come by. That's why I'm telling you to grab one and Rashee Rice. But in terms of just, again, like he is just a receiver that I do not want to leave a draft without. I really don't. Last thing to note. Number 1 in first down per route run since 2023. So what is that? And that metric, it screams a lot because that predicates the Justin Jeffersons, the CeeDee Lambs, the elite receivers. So yes, Rice is a risk, so to speak, right now because we don't know the suspensions, but I just don't want to leave a draft without him. I really don't. And that, based on all the other names we talked about, it's cheating a little bit, but I just don't want to leave a draft without Rice. I really don't, because even last year we talked about him, he was actually still going around this range, 5th round, whatever.
4th, 5th round, yep.
Yeah. So fast forward to now, today, current moment, the only thing we're talking about is, once again, a suspension.
Bro, yo, man, like you on your own with that one, man. Like you on your own with this one, man. Like I can't co-sign this one, man. Like
that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, this is all you, man.
I'm just saying it's
all you.
So what I like to do is, from my point of view, like inside the Nick Wilcox mind of drafting, look, I like to go for a play, like, as the big payoffs, the A-chans, and stuff like that. You got to identify a player that that if he goes off, he's going to bring it to the promised land. And Rice, where he's going, correct me if I'm wrong, will do that.
Yeah, but dog, like if you drafting this man in the 4th round and this man misses 6 games, hell, if he even misses 4 games, man, like that's a quarter of the season. That's a quarter of the season, and then you gotta wait and make sure that everything says everything is all go, systems all go. Then you gotta have him get back out on the field and get acclimated to things. So who knows if he's on a pitch count? Who knows if he's so now all of a sudden you taking a guy in the 4th round. We don't know. Like we don't know. Maybe it's all go, and then he's suspended 4 games, and then he's only playing X amount of games, and then because here's the other thing too, man. Just again to be devil's advocate here, Kansas City Chiefs ain't playing for no regular season, brother. They playing for a chip. They playing for a chip. So like Rashee Rice, they don't care nothing about it. And you seen it last year with Travis Kelce.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think that this overall conversation applies more to Rice. That would apply more to Travis Kelce, in my opinion, just because of how the age and stuff like that. I don't think this predicates around Rice because, again, small sample size. But again, the 3 games with Rice before he got injured, he was taking over that short and intermediate,
right. But he also wasn't coming off of an injury. I think that's the piece of it is these guys, the Chiefs, it's different. I feel like if you were talking about if Rashee Rice played for the Buffalo Bills or some shit like that right there, I think it would be a different take. It would be all right, he's got to be on the field. We got to make sure we lock down home field advantage. We got to get to this. The Kansas City Chiefs, they feel comfortable going in any space, man. So I think again, who knows how it shakes out, man. But I just think and man, maybe you end up being right. I don't think there's no denying the talent of Rashee Rice. I don't think there's no denying that. I just know for me, I know that I have definitely operated in a space where taking a lot of gambles up top. And that's one of the things is all right, how can I minimize the risk or the gambles up top? And if the gambles I'm going to take, let them be later on versus up top. Because if we're talking about round 4 guys, if you're willing to take him in round 4, these are the names that you're willing to leave behind at a draft in round 4. You're leaving behind guys potentially, maybe a JSN, maybe a Devontae, maybe. We've already talked about all the wide receivers. You got Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison Jr., Connor, Kittle, those are all guys that
well, let's pass them all. And the reason why is because they don't in some retrospect, we already correct me if I'm wrong, right? How do you feel about T. Higgins?
Just for example, I am, again, for me. For me, I said it before, I'll say it again. T. Higgins was only the value that he was last year because he sucked the year before that. That was
my
it.
thing is, if we're talking in the same context, and you're telling me T. Higgins, let's just say we flipped those guys, right? Rice and Higgins. Let's just flip them. Would you say the same thing about T. Higgins?
Like, it's too much risk, man. Like, for me, it's too much risk. Like, there is a suspension that is coming. We know that. He's coming off of a major injury. Like, if it's just a suspension, all right, like, cool, like, whatever, man. Like, that's part of it. But, like, he's coming off of a suspension and he has a major knee injury. It's not for me, because then all of a sudden, and again, completely different context. Like, you look all the way down the board and there you see the guys that, like, with similar knee injuries, granted they're older for sure. Guys like Steph Diggs and Brandon Ayuk, they are pushed down draft boards.
Different context,
right? But like Rashee Rice,
we can go back and forth about.
No.
I'm just saying,
he's not even being dinged as like a guy that's coming off of an injury or facing a suspension. Like, he's not even being dinged as a guy like that. So, like, I think, like, if there's a time that, like, says, like, okay, like, this is a value, like, if he's my wide receiver 3, like, okay, like, let's talk a little bit more. But, like, jump right out of the gate, like, in the 4th round and be like, all right, like, I'm taking this guy.
Wide receiver,
Like, hey, again,
like I said, it ain't for you. It's all right.
Not for me, man. Not for me.
I just look at it like, if I can grab Rashee Rice, or the highest price I pay as a wide receiver 2, yeah, look, I could piece together my wide receiver 2, my flex spot, and whatever. Like, I could piece this together until I get Rice, and then what I care more about most is the back half of the year, where everything matters, where all the money is.
But just to be devil's advocate, right? Sure. You got a ticking time bomb in your roster, and God only knows what's going to happen in the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season anyway. So if you get down 2 or 3 injuries, bro, you're ass out.
That's the downside.
That's my point, is that, like, in my opinion, that's an unnecessary risk. That's an unnecessary risk.
I don't think so.
Man.
Not for Rice.
Hey, man, go get him. Go get him. I want to know how many shares you get of him by the time the season's over.
I'm going to try to get as many shares as I can.
Right, listen, in the 4th round, you'll be able to get them all, brother. You'll be able to get them all.
That sounds great to me, for real.
Love it.
I love you, bro.
Love it. I love it.
Let's go over tight end before we get out of here. Who's your tight end you got, Who you want?
I'm going with Jake Ferguson, man. I'm going with Jake Ferguson.
Jakey Ferguson and the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, wait. Dallas Cowboy love?
Yeah.
Outside your boy George Pickens?
Yeah. Again, about where I'm getting him at, right? Like, hey, if Jake Ferguson at 10-9, if he's there for me, I'm there for him.
I agree. That value is crazy.
I messed around and got him in the Scott Fishbowl, I think in like the 11th or 12th round. Oh, yeah. So, like, I definitely would do that. Because he's another floor play. Probably the guy that would have made my list originally would have been Tucker Kraft. He would have made the list originally. But I know he's going.
It's funny. I want Kyle Pitts now this year, and you don't.
Hey, listen. At the rate that he's going, like, okay, like, whatever, man. I paid up for him. I paid a premium on him. And I think some people that haven't paid the premium and wanted to get there, like, they can see it. But Ferguson, even last year with like a lot of the stuff that was going on in Dallas with the Dak injury and and everything, he still had a 17% target share, which was actually 13th amongst tight ends last year. So I think, like, that's a place, like, to really capitalize on. Then, of course, obviously the red zone situation. I know I've been on record before for saying that, like, I'm not a Dak guy. as far as fantasy quarterbacks goes, and having him on my roster. I'll take him at the right value for sure. I just think that when it's appropriate, people can go backwards and go back in time. So when people want to go backwards to make their point and their case about Dak Prescott, that's fine. But when they don't do that, it's a small sample size. So tonight, I'm going to go backwards to make my case for Jake Ferguson, because all the Dak Prescott fans, or truthers, I should say, go backwards. So in 2023, Ferguson, he generated more than 100 yards after his catch over expectation, which was fourth amongst tight ends. And these were the names that were there with him, were guys like George Kittle with 192, David Njoku with 181, Jonnu Smith, believe it or not, and then Jake Ferguson, and then after that was Trey McBride. So I think very, very, very low key, Ferguson does some things after the catch, and I think he's still going to have some opportunities in the red zone as well with the Cowboys while they try to figure out this run game. So again, it's a situation with the way any of my rosters or any of my teams would be set up going into the 10th round, staring at a tight end, right? Because he's a guy that like a lot of people aren't going to be going after unless you have like a lot of like avid Cowboy fans in your league. I think that's a pretty safe place to be, right? Like you can take a guy like Jake Ferguson, and then, you can kind of do your yin and yang thing, and you can take Ferguson and then like another guy. I already talked about this offense already, but again, I'll go back to Second Avenue with Cam Ward and Chigakonkwo, right? Like I'll take my shots on Chigakonkwo, like later on in the draft. And hey, man, if Fergie ends up
pick him off out the waiver wire.
Yeah, like if Fergie ends up panning, like that's cool. But if not, then like, hey, Chig's a guy that like, hey, I can roll the dice on and take a stab at, right? So Ferguson's just a guy that like, I think we all know tight end is a wasteland. To say like this is who I gotta leave my draft with, but like he's a guy that like I know like in a lot of the drafts that like I'm doing, like he's going to be there, and that's just a safety net. And again, for me, like I said,
home cooking right there. Home cooking.
Well, no, like I said, like for me, like my whole intent for everything was like to not like, because if I wanted to be like, oh my God, I would have said TJ Hawkinson because I'm all about the Minnesota Vikings. But like,
spoiler,
yeah, like. Like, of course, I'm a KOC ho. Of course. Of course. But yeah, like I said, I'm a KOC ho, of course. But yeah, so Ferguson just in that space, I think like that is a really good place that I feel like, all right, like if I can leave with him at tight end, like I'm a pretty happy man. So Jake Ferguson going in the 10th round. So that's my guy at tight end.
Yeah, I love it because Jake Ferguson goes like obviously like in terms of where he's going is just criminal. That's basically because like, again, people don't believe in probably Dak Prescott enough or whatever. And the good thing about Ferguson is that the routes, I'm saying, are going to be there for him. I'm saying? It's going to be a very condensed offense. I'm saying? So that's where
the middle of the field is going to be open. The middle of the field is going to be open.
Especially when you're going at tight end, I'm saying? If you don't get your Bowers, McBride, your Kittle, it's like you might as well just wait, grab two guys you like later, and that's a wrap. Whether it be you draft one, that you pick one off the waiver wire, or you play that waiver wire game, it's like cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, because at the end of the day, from a strategy purposes, like that's strategy overall when it comes to the tight end. Because again, there's always so many that break out, and when they do, it's you better hope you have them. So my guy that I haven't got enough of, and I want more, especially now with season-long leagues coming around. Tyler Warren for me. The reason being is because, look at what he did in college, yes, but I'm going to get to more of it later. So Warren as a senior breakout, literally, for Penn State last year, he was a 14th overall pick. College numbers, 104 catches, 1,233 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. It gets better. 218 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, he even threw for a pass. So the guy is sort of, is he Brock Bowers-esque? We'll see. He, first of all, great blocker. So he's not going to be taken off the field because he's not blocking well. So I think he's a great blocker. He's a great move tight end in general. I think in general, like with this Colts offense, that's the only question mark, obviously, where everyone will be like, I don't know about the Colts offense, this. And I can understand it. I would like to see Daniel Jones start, but even if Anthony Richardson does, I do think that Tyler Warren can be a guy that you may not see it right away. He may not be there for the first couple of weeks, and that's where Tyler Warren's going. It's like, let's get another tight end anyway, because we'll watch it. Maybe we'll start Warren, maybe we won't, but at least we'll have another tight end, like, for example, Dallas Goedert. You talk about Ferguson, we talk about Dallas Goedert as well.
Yeah.
In that same vein, where some of these tight ends in general, like we can talk about Pitts, who goes literally a round later or whatever. It's like taking a stab on the later tight ends, like we just talked about strategy-wise, and playing it week by week. Because if Tyler Warren all of a sudden starts seeing more usage, the snap percentage starts going up more. You know what I'm saying? Like he starts getting more productive. If we don't see it early on, that's fine. We can just hold that and still potentially start another tight end that goes later. But yeah, look, again, I think it's not a Brock Bowers situation, although it could manifest into it, but I'm not banking on that. I am banking on the type of talent at the tight end, because sooner or later, you know what I'm saying, just like with Brock Bowers last year, we're going to start seeing some tight ends in the rookie year really have a chance for a nice breakout where we're versus ADP and versus where we draft them. Because again, Tyler Warren, 11th round right now, for the talent that he is, I understand, again, the concerns on the offense, who's starting at quarterback. You still have Downs and Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, stuff like that. But I do think with Tyler Warren, he didn't go number 14th overall for, just for, shits and giggles. He went there because they literally had a plan for him. And Shane Steichen, I still respect him as a coach, and I still respect him as a play caller. So I do think that they're going to be – they even talked about, they're playing him at, fullback, or they're playing him as, a little carry here, a little carry there. I'm like, that piqued my ears a little bit, because I'm like, well, if they're going to use him as a overall just weapon on the offense, this could lead to some, manufactured touches that they're going to be trying to game plan for him and scheme him up every week. And I love that, especially where he goes.
Yeah, nothing says smart move by the Indianapolis Colts like putting Tyler Warren at fullback, taking away those carries away from Jonathan Taylor. You know what I mean? Let's ball out. Let's ball out with Anthony Richardson. Let's ball out. What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
Everything.
What could go wrong?
And even if Tyler Warren is not the next Brock Bowers, it only costs you 11th round pick. Yeah. So
I think he's a dope talent for sure. I mean, clearly, like if seeing all that stuff, they obviously have some intention to play him at quarterback as well. I mean, can't be that bad, the quarterback.
Maybe if he starts at quarterback, Taysom Hill status. Ooh, I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say all that, but I do think like where Tyler Warren goes, he's someone I definitely want.
There's a world for it. There's a world for it for sure. I think like if you start to really like go like into a place like with crazy upside and like you're like, all right, I'm gonna, because again, tight end is it's a wasteland, and if you don't get one of those first 3 or 4 guys, like then you are at risk. And then like even guys like Evan Ingram, like they come with their own set of baggage, like as well. And like even for I'll probably catch 20 tons of hell for saying this, but whatever, I don't care. Like even guys like George Kittle, like George Kittle comes with his own set of baggage. Like he comes with his own set of baggage. Like, there have been times that, he's been dinged up and he still goes out and plays. Like he doesn't necessarily miss time, but like he's so dinged up that like it just like it can be non-existent at times, right? And I think we already seen the regression last year with Trey McBride, which we know like that'll get better. So tight end is what it is, and I can never talk shit about anybody and their takes on tight end because I drafted Kyle Pitts for like the last 3 years. So there you
go. Yikes. John's day one guys are on the ticker. To review one more time, we have Caleb Williams as his QB. So as the ticker refreshes, we got John's day one guys, Caleb Williams as his QB, Marion Hampton, RB1, Dylan Sampson, RB2, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, Jacoby Myers, and tight end, Jake Ferguson. My day one guys, Bo Nix, Devon Achane, Swift as RB2, Jameson Williams, the Chico Rashee Rice at wide receiver 2, based on ADP, and Tyler Warren. Those are our guys for the upcoming season. Obviously, we'll have other guys that will tell you guys the draft, depending on what leagues you're in, what settings you are, and stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned for that, because we got a lot more of that coming. And check out some of our shorts that we're going to be posting, because we got some shorts that, we need some shorts love. So feel free to please do that. As we are continuing to build the channel up, we appreciate everybody that comes every single week, that comes and views, that comes and watch after the show, that hits us up on X. Like, we appreciate all the love for sure. When it comes to the channel. John, you know what time it is. Any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Nope. Just trying to pack my bags for the expo, getting ready for the Fans Classic, getting ready for draft night out. Also started the Warrior Bowl today as well. Yeah, just started that. So, just get my bags packed, getting ready to go, and hopefully getting ready to take down this Fans Classic, man. That's the plan.
No. Maybe. If you do it, that'd be great, but I want to do it.
Hey,
there's not just one winner, right?
Drafting Rashee Rice in the 4th round, I'll guarantee it. So,
there's not just one winner, right? Is there only one winner out of all this, or is it by league, or how does it work? I forgot. I gotta look it up. The Fans Classic. People don't know Fans Classic is something new that the Expo is doing this year. And if you're one of the lucky winners, you get to represent one of your favorite analysts for the next season's Kings Classic. To do that as well with them. So
I'm at the one already. Like, I'm already at the one at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I'll be at that one, and then I'll have the other one too. So this is so definitely trying to take that one down for sure. And then if not, then consolation will be, I guess I'll have to win the other one to get back in again. So either way.
That's fair.
Either way.
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Expo in a few days. Oh, can't wait. Can't wait to see some people that we ain't seen in a while. And reconnect with some people that we ain't seen, meet some new connections. And yeah, man, it's always a blast out there in Ohio. Can't wait for it. If you guys never been to the Expo before, y'all need to make that something for next year to do. Put it on your bucket list for next year. Because, man, like, it's an awesome place to go. It's an awesome place to network and connect, and just have fun and literally talk about fantasy football and run the town of Canton for a weekend. So without further ado, we'll potentially see you guys next week. Either, we maybe put out a video, whatever. You'll see us next week, though. So the Fantasy Football Show, myself and John, we out. We see y'all in the next video. Peace.